Heyo YouTube, Flowcat here, and today I wanted to talk about, yes, the Gamespot article. That article that everyone is talking about. There's so much drama going around about this article. I have a different opinion than what I've been seeing online, and a lot of people have been talking about this article. I just wanted to make this video because I understand people's frustration. This interview sucks. It's a terrible interview. I mean, it's just terrible. But also people are just saying so many things, making a lot of inferences and assumptions, and also just flat out lying about what this article actually says or means. I just kind of wanted to go through it and give my take on it, give my responses to this article, because there's just, like I said, so much negative stuff going around about this, and I'm not gonna lie, I think a lot of it is very overblown. I think a lot of it is like this interview, just the long and short of it, whoever responded to these emails from GameSpot, either they're not high up in the company or they just don't have a lot of definitive answers to these questions. And so they just gave a lot of super vague non-answers, you know, just answers that mean basically nothing. Like, you can look at the very first question where they ask about like, oh, we have these shorter patches. Are you going to keep doing that in the future? And they said right now, like they basically said right now we have shorter patches and that will not affect the quality of these updates. Stay tuned. So they asked about whether the patches are going to remain short, and they said that right now the patches are short. Stay tuned. Like, that's not an answer. That we already know that, you know? So it's like that doesn't provide any useful information. But now I want to jump over to the part where they talk about the spiral abyss, stuff like this. Now I am going to kind of read this out. I'm sure all of you have read this article 15 times and heard 10 other people read it, so I'm not going to read the whole article, but like they ask basically, currently the spiral abyss is the only true endgame content for people at high AR ranks. Are there any plans to release new permanent endgame content in the same veins as spiral abyss? And everyone read this question and immediately they're like But here's what they said. They said the spiral abyss is the most effective way for them, blah, blah, blah. If we design another type of permanent end game that is similar to spiral abyss, it might end up creating excess anxiety for our players. Not everyone is interested in must grief. Now, there's a number of things that this part could mean. They're talking about the primo gems. You know, some players get FOMO, like if they can't 36-star abyss, they're missing out on primo gems. It can also create anxiety in the sense of like bloat. You know, if you have too many things to deal with on a weekly basis or a daily basis with the game, too many things to keep up with, it can become stressful, okay? And also just basically stating that, you know, not everyone is interested in the combat endgame of the spiral abyss. So they brought up the Genius Invocation TCG, which they unveiled, and they said, we are also working on designing more interesting gameplay in the future. As an open world game, Genshin Impact has a natural compatibility with various types of gameplay, which gives us confidence in the long-term operation. So everyone read this answer, they read this question, and they basically just said, no end game ever. The game is going to be just giga casual forever, and there's no point in building your characters and stuff like that. It just, I think that a lot of people are taking this article and implying or assuming things that they didn't say. First of all, they said if we design another type of permanent endgame that is similar to Abyss, might create anxiety. They didn't say that they won't develop the Abyss or, you know, continue to work on the Abyss, maybe expand it in the future. They never said anything about that. So like, these answers are neither confirming nor denying anything. Like, they didn't confirm that they're gonna do anything, but they also didn't outright say, no, this is never gonna happen. All your hope, you know, is dead or whatever. But they did say that basically, as an open world game, you know, they have the teapot, they're adding the Genius Invocation TCG. We have a variety of interesting little things that we can do in our open world, you know, game. And I think that they want to continue to expand on those features to make the game feel more than just fighting, you know, to make us feel more immersed into the world, that these characters do more than just run around and kill everything. If you follow my content, you would know that I personally think that like there are tons of grindy games out there. If you want to go play a grindy game, there are tons of them out there. Genshin Impact just isn't that grindy. It's just not that hardcore. And I know one of the other complaints that keeps coming out about this is that, like, okay, I have the C6R5 unit, I'm a Giga Whale. I have a C6R5 unit, what am I gonna do? People are talking about that, like, oh my gosh, I have these insanely strong characters, and what's the point? Is that a bad thing? Should we make the game have modes that are so challenging that you need a C6R5 unit to compete with it? Like, I just, you know, the fact that they're catering to the more free-to-play casual aspects of the game, I don't think is really problematic. If you spent that much money on the game and it's too easy, well, maybe spend less money on the game. If anything, I think that it's a good thing that you can pull like a C0 5-star and you can handle everything. Now, of course, as I said, this article neither confirms nor denies the future endgame content. It's basically, they're just saying they're keeping their options open. They have the Spiral Abyss. Not everyone seems to like it, so they're not really super interested in pursuing other stuff like that. We already get lots of combat events. We get the Spiral Abyss, and you know, you can run around, fight mobs, you can fight world bosses, you can fight Masanori if you want. Like, there's stuff to do. Just, you know, I understand that people want other game modes. It just isn't on their radar right now because it seems like they're more interested in working on the story, other aspects of the game. But that being said, it doesn't mean that later down the road something like this won't be possible. It's not like they said we are extremely against the idea of having hardcore combat challenges or, like, you know, challenges that are very difficult for endgame players. It's not like they said they don't ever want to do that or they'll never do that. It was just sort of a non-answer. And that's why I just kind of want to wrap up this whole conversation by saying that we shouldn't take this article too seriously. If you are familiar with the corporate world, then, like, you can tell by reading this article that this person didn't have the answers to a lot of these questions. So all they did was state the obvious reality of what we already know. And that's kind of it. Like, they just sort of left it there. They didn't really confirm or deny anything. For example, we can look at the resin question. You know, they basically said, hey, there's a lot of stuff to spend resin on. Could we get an increased cap or a quicker regeneration rate? And the answer was, resin is required, you know, to raise your characters. We have events that allow people to get these items as well. Like, well, yeah, we already know that. That doesn't really answer the question. That doesn't answer the question at all. That's just corporate speak for I don't know, really, is what it is. You know, they can only speak about what's confirmed. I know why Gamespot posted this article. Like, it's a hot button issue for a lot of people in the community. This stuff about endgame, resin, you know, all that stuff. It really gets people going, right? So they figured it would give a lot of attention to this article, and it did. But the unfortunate reality of it is that this article is not a good source of information. We don't even know who replied to it, like who even gave us these answers. We don't know how high up they are in the company. We don't know whether they even have legitimate sources of information for these questions that were given. It's all just kind of useless, right? But everyone is taking it and sort of making way too much of it. Really, is all it is. It's not the end of the world. The game's not dying. They haven't given up on the game. They haven't decided that we're all anxious casuals who will never want combat challenges. Like, I think they understand as developers that the majority of the player base are casual, and that's where their focus is going for now. But if the casuals are happy and they're vibing and doing all their stuff and they don't feel like they need to work on that side of the game very much, you know, we've gotten combat events that are pretty good for hardcore players. The Spiral Abyss remains a good challenge for people to test out their rosters. And for now, for me at least, that's plenty of challenging gameplay. I don't play Genshin to feel stressed out or to grind or to have, like, you know, a bunch of stress about the end game, raids or whatever. But I could certainly see that kind of stuff coming to the game later down the road. We have to keep in mind that the stories and the regions that come out take a ton of their development resources to create. So, like, these extra game modes and side activities and stuff, they're going to be slow going for a while until they're able to wrap up and finish the base game, you know? that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I rambled, I ranted, I got my points out there. It's a silly article. It's a crappy article. It doesn't really mean much of anything. People are making way too much of it. So now I want to know, what do you think about the article? Do you think it's the end of the world? Do you think that Genshin Impact has proclaimed that, I don't know. Just tell me what you think in the comments down below. If you like the video, sub, like, all that good stuff, you know, it'd be great. It would help me out. I have a Discord, friendly people in there. We do cool stuffs, we chat. If you would like to join, the link will be in the description of this video, also in the pinned comment. And as always, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Peace.